Rushed to the scene of the shooting say they will never forget the harrowing experience of entering the school that day.
Dr. Megan Gusick is an emergency room doctor at UW and the medical director of the fire department, not to mention a parent herself. She was on the scene that day and at the hospital.
I received a phone call that we'd had a school shooting, and I jumped in my personal vehicle, immediately drove to the scene.
Once she arrived, she learned paramedics had identified all of the patients who needed care. She headed to the hospital just as the ambulances pulled up.
That's kind of when my role actually stepped up a little bit more in the emergency department, in the sense that these kids had just gone to the OR, but we had no idea who they were.
And they were in critical condition.
Our paramedics actually knew the first names of the kids that they transported here. So they knew Sammy and River's name, but it doesn't always get relayed when these kids come in super sick.
Dr. Gusick had to connect with paramedics to get first names, and then she had to figure out last names.
We interestingly used social media to figure out who they were and kind of confirm them. So the last thing we wanted to do was tell a parent the wrong parent.
Dr. Gusick's job to reunite families 1 year ago was the hardest day of her life.
At the end of the day, we all just want to be treated with respect. In our darkest moment, we want that same compassion. Taking the potential emotion from the situation and instead putting that into compassionate care and compassionate communication is sort of how I deal with those really difficult events.
And then the reunion.
The fact that we were able to take those first responders and show them these kids in their, recovered state. The last time they saw them, these kids were literally dying in front of them. And so for them to take a horrific picture and replace it with one where these kids are back with their families and interacting like kids again was really heartwarming, and I can't say enough how impactful that was for them to heal.
And as Dr. Gusick explains, that healing and surviving is critical in the first seconds and minutes on scene.
I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize that actually law enforcement has so many different roles in this, and not only are they going to make the scene safe, but they also provided the first care to these kids.
She showed us the medical supplies kept in an emergency vehicle that can save lives by just minutes, if not seconds.
So tourniquets.
It's a jump bag of medical supplies kept in her personal vehicle for emergency response.
Wound care options. It's been an interesting year in the sense that it feels like a long time ago, but it also just feels like yesterday.
And like most of her colleagues, Dr. Gusick was able to keep her personal emotions in check while on the job until she went home.
Had been on scene, then I was in the emergency department for several hours, and then I was at the press conference with the mayor and the police chief and our fire chief, and then I finally went home and picked up my kid, and that's when the emotions hit. And that was really hard to realize that I get to hold my kid today, but not everybody got to that day, going home.
And Dr. Gusick is especially proud of how first responders, law enforcement, the hospital, and others worked together 1 year ago. And she continues to work on training to be sure those teams are prepared in the future.